Words cannot describe how poor we were in the last game against Liverpool, but we have the chance to shake off that result and get back on the horse with another league fixture versus Wolverhampton Wanderers, providing us a chance at redemption in game week 23. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome to the lead-in. Let's set the scene here. It's Wolves versus Chelsea, 11th versus 10th. In the grand scheme of things, this doesn't seem like an important game, but for both clubs, it's a big chance to recover the season. Wolves sit only 2 points behind us going into this one, and a win here could see them leapfrog us into 10th, putting us into the bottom half of the table. A win for Chelsea could see us go as high as 8th place if Brighton and Newcastle fail to win their games, and that's very possible with both of their opponents, Palace and Luton respectively, coming off of some good recent form. Okay, quick editor's note here. Obviously, I recorded this before the Newcastle and Brighton games. The games are actually going on right now, and currently Brighton are winning 3-0, and Luton and Newcastle are drawing, so at the moment the maximum we can get is 9th actually. Wolves have won 8 games, drawn 5 and lost 9, just one draw different from Chelsea's record. But the main thing I want to point out is that one of those 8 wins was against us in the reverse fixture. The reason I point this out? Well, because that game versus Wolves earlier in the season parallels the game we just went through versus Liverpool in many ways. Defensive mistakes, decision making at the top end of the pitch non-existent, players getting booked for simulation, and a late consolation goal for Christopher Nkunku. Wolves are going to make this very difficult for us once again, so let's talk about their team first and take a brief look at how they could line up in this one. Firstly, let's talk absentees. Wolves don't actually have any injuries at the moment, which is rather shocking in today's modern game, but they are still without a couple of players. Loney Boubacar Traore is away with his native Mali for the African Cup of Nations, and star forward Hwang Hee-chan is also away for international duty, playing in the Asian Cup for South Korea. I'll be putting Gary O'Neill's side into their standard 3-4-3 formation, but there should be some rotations to the side as they only just played Man United very recently. However, first up in goal will remain Jose Sarr. I don't expect their number 1 to drop out, and he performed very well against us last time out. The defence is going to be a pretty standard back 3 for the old gold team, with Max Kilman starting on the right hand side, ex-West Ham veteran Craig Dawson in the central spot, and the Portuguese Totti Gomes on the left to complete the trio. In the midfield, we'll start with the right wing back. Despite him playing the full 90 last time out, I'd expect Nelson Semedo to retain his place here. The 2 central midfielders is where I believe there will be a change. Mario Lemina played the full 90 and could be rested, but I believe he's too important to the team and will start, likely getting subbed off later in the game. The other centre mid, however, I do expect a change, with Tommy Doyle dropping out to accommodate Joao Gomes on the left. Finally, over on the left hand side, I do foresee change here too. I'd expect the more natural left wing back in Ryan Ait-Nouri to come in and replace Matt Doherty. For the 3 up top, I think there will be change here too, though I'm not expecting that change to take the informed Pedro Neto out of the side on that right hand side. The left hand side I do expect a change though. After he scored his penalty, I'd assume that Pablo Sarabia would line up on that side instead. That means Mateusz Cunha would drop out if I weren't putting him up top, in a more natural forward position for him, leading the line. As I said, just a brief overview of what I expect their team to look like. I'm not going to go into much more detail as we've played them before, but I'll touch on a few things a little bit later, so stick around. Instead, let's quickly take a look at how Chelsea could line up. I'm going to be predicting what I expect to see from Pochettino as always, and then give my personal lineup afterwards like I always do. So we'll be lining up in the 4-2-3-1 as usual, and first up in goal will once again be Djordje Petrovic. I'm running out of words to describe how much of a bargain this man was. Another excellent performance last time out, but was let down majorly by the defence in front of him. The back 4 is going to be changed, so let's start on the right hand side, where I believe Malo Gusto will return to the side from the start. The 2 centre backs are going to remain relatively similar to what they've been all season, with Axel Disasi and Thiago Silva in the centre. The left back, I think Poch will stick with Ben Chilwell despite how poor he was last time out. The 2 holding roles usually pick themselves, but I have a weird feeling that Poch might opt to drop one of either Enzo or Caicedo for this one, in favour of Cesare Catterday. Poch is constantly complaining about a lack of height in midfield, and I'd expect that Caicedo would come out of the team if this happened, as ludicrous as it sounds. The 3 in front of them is a toss-up in all honesty. All of our forward players have been inconsistent in recent times, but I'd expect Cole Palmer to play on the right of the 3. For the central player, I'd expect Gallagher to start as always. Poch seems to love this guy for some reason, and I'd be surprised if he's dropped. Over on the left, I'll be putting in Raheem Sterling, who again I don't foresee being dropped at all. Finally, down the centre, I genuinely don't know who will start, but again, I have a really weird hunch that Poch will opt to play Nkunku here, totally out of position. It just seems like the typical nonsensical decision that he would make with Jackson only just returning from AFCON. This is what I'm expecting, but what would I personally change? Well, pretty much all of it. I'm going to suggest a lineup here that I don't think Pochettino has the cojones to pick, but I certainly do. Firstly, Petrovic starts of course, he's our first choice keeper in my eyes and will be for the foreseeable future. The back four will be similar to the predicted lineup, but there's absolutely no way I would be letting Ben Chilwell start after the disaster class he dropped last time out. Levi Colwill isn't fit as he has tendon problems, so I'd be tempted to put Badiashile at left back, but instead what I'd rather see is Caicedo at right back and Gusto at left back. Caicedo has played right back for Brighton in the past and is perfectly capable of getting up and down the pitch, and I trust Gusto defensively far more than Chilwell on the left, despite my dislike for playing him on his wrong side. The midfield I'd go for is Enzo and Carney Chukwuemeka. With Caicedo moving to right back, this means Carney would slot into the holding role alongside Enzo, and would mean that Enzo would play as a deep-lying playmaker and not be getting a nosebleed up near the opposition's box. Palmer would stay where he is, but Nkunku would be deployed in this central role, not particularly as a midfielder, but more as a second striker. Over on the left, I'd put Mudryk in. I know he's not always great, but I am genuinely sick and tired of Sterling ruining every single one of our attacks, and Mudryk's passing is much better than Raz's, which will help with our strikers making runs in behind. His link up with Carney and Nkunku is much better than Sterling's too, in my opinion. That means the striker will be Nicholas Jackson, and boy have we missed this man in his absence. Now we will have a focal point to play off of, and with Broja leaving on loan to Fulham, I hope this signals a chance for David Washington to be the substitute striker and get some minutes, finally. So those are my lineups, and I'd like to hear from you guys too, so for today's question of the day, answer me this. If Chelsea did sign someone in the January transfer window, who would you have liked to see us get, and why? Let me know in the comments below with QOTD at the start as always. Now let's talk about the game plan. What should we be aiming to achieve in this game? Well, to be honest, all I want to see is some progress. So far this season we have seen absolutely zero change from last season, and considering we spent as much money as we have, I think it's unacceptable. I am flabbergasted that some people out there genuinely believe that we've improved, and I'm going to show you something that I think sums it all up. Listen to this and tell me if you still think we've gone upwards since last season. Last season, after 22 matches, we were in 10th place, had 31 points and 1 goal difference. Now let's compare that to this season. We have just played our 22nd match, are in 10th place, have 31 points and 1 goal difference. We are in the exact same place we were last season at this stage, and considering how much more money we have spent this season, that means we have regressed, not improved. After the 23rd match last season, a 1-0 defeat to Southampton, our place obviously didn't change. All I am asking for is that for this season, this match, after the 23rd game, that we improve. I'm not asking for much. We are facing a Wolves team that has just hit a small patch of poor form with a leaky defence. They have just conceded 4 goals to Manchester United and have conceded the same amount of goals as us overall, and we've been terrible. We should be able to create opportunities and more importantly take them against a team of this calibre. So, how do I suggest we do that? Well, Wolves have shown in recent games that they mainly concede chances and goals from one main thing: transitions. Wolves are a team that enjoy time on the ball, enjoy possession, and so they push their team up high when they are able. Because of the 3 at the back system they use, that extra centre back in theory gives them the extra defensive cover they need, so they can commit other players further forward when attacking. But this does leave them exposed on the counter if teams are able to quickly shift the ball with those bodies committed high. There is space to exploit in behind, and the centre backs they do have aren't exceptionally pacey. Against West Ham, all 3 goals they conceded came from their own spells of possession, and that's not including the other chances that West Ham were given that they didn't take. Versus Man United in their last fixture, they conceded a goal to Rasmus Højlund that didn't come from a transition, but from that overcommittance of bodies forward. Look at how high they are here when Onana plays this pass out to Dalot. They couldn't get the bodies back fast enough. Against Brentford in the FA Cup, they won the game but still conceded 2 goals, and one of them was because they switched off defensively from a quick free kick and were caught without bodies back. We even saw the same thing when we faced them. We had numerous chances on the counter or from us winning the ball high up, the most obvious being the chance Raheem Sterling completely fumbled by not passing it across goal for the easiest tap-in imaginable, but fortunately for the Molineux crowd, we didn't take any of those chances. Speaking of stadiums, that's another important thing of note to mention. Wolves have had a very decent showing at their home ground, winning 5 and drawing 3 games with only 3 losses. Those losses were to Liverpool, Man United and Brighton when Wolves were down to 10 men. That's seriously impressive. They even beat Man City there. However, their away form has been woeful in comparison. Only 3 wins, 2 draws and 6 defeats in other stadiums. Those 3 wins came against Brentford, a 10-man Bournemouth and Everton, not the most challenging of teams in truth. Why do I bring this up? Well, because the game is away for them. It's a 2 PM kickoff at Stamford Bridge, and Chelsea are currently on a 10-game unbeaten run at home in all competitions. I think this is going to be a really difficult fixture for them, especially without their home crowd there to boost them. Another thing I want to highlight is just how dangerous Wolves can be from set pieces. In the first fixture earlier in the season, we defended these opportunities poorly and never learnt our lesson. After being bailed out by Petrovic from a Totti bullet header, we later conceded to a Mario Lemina header instead from a corner. In general, we have been awful at defending balls into the box, and Wolves no doubt know this and will look to exploit this weakness again. We will need to be well drilled, determined to win the ball in the air, and clear our lines cleanly. Otherwise, I genuinely see this game getting away from us, go 1 goal down and we may not get back into the game. For a score prediction though, I am going to predict a close Chelsea victory and say that we will win this game 2-1. Our goals will come from Jackson, getting a goal on his return to the side, hopefully not off the bench, and Nkunku, who always knows where the goal is. For the old gold, I reckon Pedro Neto will score with a near post effort. I think this will be a similar game to the last time these two sides met, very open, very end-to-end, but with our forward line finally showing some composure and barely taking the game away from Wolves. We'll have to wait until the afternoon tomorrow to see if any of my predictions are correct, and as always I'll be live streaming after the game to give my first reactions. But if you can't wait until then, maybe watch one of these 2 videos on screen in the meantime. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.